Morning glory, evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. As promised, Chuck Box is in the house. C.J. Box is the author of the brand new Joe Pickett novel, Battle Mountain. And C.J., welcome back. This is the first time we've talked in my afternoon East Coast drive time. So we have to assume that there are people, even though you've been coming on the show for 2 decades, there are people who don't know anything about Joe Pickett. There are people who don't know anything about you. They don't know about the 25 Joe Pickett novels or why. When one comes out, it's like my old friend has showed up again, and I get to see what Joe's up to. So I want to start at tell people who you are and why they want to read the Joe Pickett novels.
Oh, well, I'm a novelist. I don't, I wouldn't necessarily say thriller writer or crime novelist, but some combination of those. I've got a long time series about featuring Joe Pickett, a Wyoming game warden, and his wife and his kids are in it, as well as his buddy Nate Romanowski, who's a outlaw falconer with a special forces background. And Joe's job would suggest, the books primarily take place outdoors. There's a lot of environmental, energy-related, other kinds of issues explored in the books, but hopefully they're page turners. They've done very well. Every book has outsold the last book, going on 25 years, which I'm very proud of.
That's remarkable.
It won't continue forever.
Yeah. I got to say, though, about Battle Mountain, I have read 303 pages, but as is my habit, I never want to finish a thriller before I talk to the author because I don't want to give away the end. And I can't wait till the interview's over because then I'm going to go and read the last 3 pages. But I did do some research. Battle Mountain is real. I've got a picture of it. I don't know if Harley got it yet, of where it's located in Wyoming. How did you find out about the original Battle Mountain battle?
Well, it's not too far from where our ranch is located in south central Wyoming. And I was aware of the place because I've been there. I've elk hunted there. And I was curious about the name myself and found out it was based on a real battle that took place in the 1830s between mountain men and American Indians, where a couple of the mountain men got killed. A few of them escaped eventually. And when they finally got off of it, they referred to it by that name, and the name has stuck.
I went and read the whole story of Battle Mountain as I was going through this. I always have to keep a list of new things I learn in a C.J. Box thriller, whether it's one of his one-offs or if it's a Joe Pickett book. And I made a long list in here, and we'll go through a couple of them. But that could be a movie. Battle Mountain is that's a pretty interesting little story of it in itself. I'm glad you condensed it for readers, but I'm here to tell the audience it's true.
Yes, it is, and I love to do that. I mean, I don't write historical westerns, but if I can reach back a little bit and include an actual location and tell a little bit about it, it's fun for me, and I think it's fun for readers too, because there are actually people who go on C.J. Box tours of Wyoming and try to go to all the locations, and because I scramble them all geographically, it's pretty frustrating for them. But this one they could find.
I am not surprised that happens because it's happened with every big series everywhere. People figure out how to monetize your work. I don't know if they license the C.J. Box tour. I hope they don't come to your house. Do they come to your house?
They don't, simply because where I live, all the local people are very nice, and they don't tell them where I live. But
you might have a friend named Nate. And Sheridan might be around in the pickup with the old 12 gauge. That's enough of the clues.
That's right.
Let me go by telling you, this week in con law, I was teaching the kids about the Interstate Commerce Commission, trucks moving on highways, and I threw out a number of serial killers suspected of being truck drivers, and I told them about the highway. How many are there at any given time?
Well, at the time I wrote the book, The Highway, the FBI thought that there were about something like 1,000 missing truck stop prostitutes. They're probably the work of 30 to 40 serial killer truck drivers. Both of those numbers have now been revised up. And as far as I know, there's only been 2 that have been caught. I don't follow it as closely as I did when the book came out, but it definitely was and is an issue.
I told them a dozen because I couldn't remember. I'll have to revise and extend my remarks when I next. They couldn't believe it. And I'm here to tell everyone, if you're not going to start at the beginning of Joe Pickett, begin with The Highway. Scariest novel I've ever read. You look at everything differently. I'm not sure CJ's welcome in any truck stop in America now. Are you?
Well, I haven't been kicked out of any, and what I've found over the years, just like when I read about bureaucrats, truck drivers never put themselves. Their truck drivers are scared of other truck drivers, and there's when I did the research on it and did some ride-alongs with them, they would point out certain trucks parked in the corner of the parking lot that they wouldn't go near. So they know it's not them, it's those other guys.
All right, that's just a plug for the highway. Now I want to go back to Joe Pickett. Joe Pickett has grown on me because he's grown up. Over the years that you and I have been talking and having an occasional meal, Joe's gotten older. His kids have graduated from college. They've moved on. This book, Battle Mountain, can actually be read without injury to any of the previous books. I think that's a fair thing to say. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree with you completely. I think, I try to write every book as a standalone. This one is connected to the previous book, 3-Inch Teeth, in that Nate's quest for revenge, the circumstances occur in the previous book, but they're recapped very quickly in this one. And I think anybody who picked it up would not feel hopelessly lost.
And you wouldn't give, the reason I said that 3-Inch Teeth about grizzlies, there aren't grizzlies here. There's a random reference to a grizzly on the radio, but you're not giving away anything in 3-Inch Teeth. 3-Inch Teeth is the previous book in the Pickett series.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you about a couple of my questions. How did you learn about diethylene glycol and how it works?
I that was one of those an internet search. I wanted an authentic accelerant and explosive that was used by the military, and found it. I even found some places I could buy it, which I didn't, but that's how.
Okay, now I don't know yet whether Mr. Orr is a good guy or a bad guy. That's what's so great about this book. I don't know. I'm 30 pages to go. I kind of have a suspicion, but I don't know. How did you come up with the character of Orr?
Well, I've got a lot of feds in the book. Some are, like you say, some are good, some are bad. This one I won't reveal which one he is, but I like to have different kind of character. I don't like to stereotype. The name Rick Orr is actually from a reader who is an ex-engineer who has been kind enough to plot every single character name through every single one of my books, and when they appear and which stories they appear and when they reappear. And every year he gives me a huge database that I can use because there's so many books in the series now, to make sure I'm not using the same name twice or whatever. And I really value this guy's help, so I named his character after him.
Well, I think he's a very well-drawn character, and I fear there are a lot of parallels, and I'll leave it for readers to go along. Now, here's the alarming part. Nate, who is the hook for people who like thrillers, the people who like mysteries will naturally gravitate to the Joe Pickett series. But if you like thrillers, for a couple of years, I wasn't reading these things until CJ sent me a note saying, it's really a thriller and a mystery novel. And so I read it, and he's right. The people like the Centurion, this is Nate talking on page 232. I don't want to give anything away. The people like the Centurion ship them off to third world countries where they see their buddies get maimed or killed. And for what? It's not like we fight our wars to win anymore. Is Nate Romanowski losing faith in America?
He has always been he's always been a rebel. He's always been at odds with several federal agencies. He served overseas as well. And, he has some very strong views about winning and losing and no accountability.
And so those views have been there before, but they are most precisely charted here. And it doesn't sound like he's going to recover from this.
I don't know. I don't look ahead. I don't think ahead that far. His story arc has been interesting in that he's pretty feral, primitive, falconer, lived on his own, off the grid. Then through the series, got married, started a business, started carrying a cell phone.
Stop doing. Don't give too much away. They got to go back and read Joe Pickett from the start. Battle Mountain is a Battle Mountain. Nate's on page 1. So for everyone out there who likes Nate more than they like Joe, he's right there at the beginning. If they like Joe more than they like Nate, there's a lot of Joe. But together, and there's a lot of Mary Beth, and there's a lot of everybody, familiar characters. And when I come back at the end of the show, and then the extended conversation with Chuck. I'm going to talk about that. CJ Box's new book is Battle Mountain. Battle Mountain can be ordered today. It'll be in your doorstep. People get mad at me because I get them early, but someone's got to read them in order to be able to tell you about Battle Mountain. And I am out there telling you, this is as good as any of them, even the Yosemite, even though Yellowstone remains. There's a Yellowstone angle. I might bring that up at the end of the show when I remind you about Battle Mountain. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome back, America. I would be remiss if I didn't give you part 2 of my interview with CJ Box. His brand new book is Battle Mountain. I'm holding up Battle Mountain right now. You can go and order it. It's the latest. It's the 25th in the series of Joe Pickett novels, every one of which is great, but this is really fabulous. New thing, new fun fact to know and tell. Yellowstone North Entrance, the Roosevelt Arch, for the benefit of all the people. It's too bad it's going to blow, Chuck, but it's in
not
there.
Going to blow. It's not going to blow. We visited last year with our grandkids, and it's beautiful. America's first national park. You should not be too scared to go there.
Well, that was then.
Dwayne's in. Dwayne showed up late. That was then. We're a year closer, but now we've got this asteroid headed towards Earth. Did you read about that this week?
3.1% chance of hitting a big city. I like those odds.
I like those odds too, but what if it hits Brisbane? That's where the games are going to be. The Olympics in 2032 are in Brisbane. So,
well, I don't.
Would you?
I
wouldn't make any plans until I got more from NASA on do we have I asked AI today. Are you using AI, by the way, in anything that you're doing?
I have experimented with it and checked it out. Especially the one, Grok, the Twitter app, and it's fascinating. I went there and said, write the first 2 pages of a new Joe Pickett novel by C.J. Box, and it did a pretty good job. Not as good as I would do, but
did you give him a couple of prompts? Did you prompt it with, here's a news story from the headlines, that sort of thing?
I did not. It invented its own plot.
Wow. That's kind of scary for all writers, isn't it?
I think it's scary for not very creative writers.
Yeah, the one thing it can't anticipate is an event that has not yet happened that you might put into the next book. CJ,
Right.
Before we go, and we're going to talk off air, and I'm going to post the whole thing over at my YouTube channel, how many years does Joe have left in his red game warden shirt?
I don't have it all figured out, Hugh. As you know, the books have taken place in real time. He's now 51 years old. Not every book is a year from the last one. Some are butted right up against it, like this one, Battle Mountain. So if I continue it on in real time, I just always figure he's going to be of retirement age when I'm ready to retire.
And his he's up to number 15, right? His badge is 15?
That's right. Yeah, maybe when he gets to be number 1 game warden in the state of Wyoming.
That would presume facts not yet in evidence. We got to keep Governor Rulon going for a few years before that happens. Don't go anywhere, America, or go over to my YouTube channel, because I'm going to continue to talk with CJ Box about Battle Mountain. You should go and order it today because you'll be very happy. And if you've never read a Joe Pickett novel, go back to the beginning. CJ Box has a website, cjbox.net. I got that right, Chuck?
That's right. Exactly.
Yep. cjbox.net. You can get all the books there. And if you really want to just luxuriate in reading, I actually think it's a great place to start young readers who want to be outdoors and actually be drawn in. I've been talking about reading today. CJ Box, thank you. Battle Mountain is out now in bookstores everywhere, and you can order it at Amazon. I am back now with CJ Box, and there may be more spoilers here, CJ. When I'm on the air talking to people on their radio, I'm more careful about spoilers than I am. If they've come to the YouTube channel, they know about you, they're going to know about Axel. So Axel is back. And the reason I brought up the highway is because Axel's as bad as the guy in the highway. I mean, he's a villain's villain. And did you intend when you started out to make a villain's villain?
No, I did not. What I intended to do was to create a character with a similar background as Nate Romanowski, but younger, and who took a completely different path. I mean, Axel is a special forces guy, a falconer, but rather than go off the grid like Nate did, Axel decides to get revenge on all of the U.S. military industrial complex that he thinks has let down people like him over the years, and he takes it very personally. The recruits like-minded individuals, and they all have a plan in mind, which I won't reveal.
Is there a Summit Mountain resort that's closed?
I'm trying to remember what I based that on. Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
All right, so that it made sense to me that there might be something like that. I'm not going to mention anything, but I'm going to ask you, have you ever been in Jackson Hole when the Federal Reservists showed up?
I have, because I used to be involved in the tourism industry. I've tried to drive people through the park when they're there, and all there's guys in the trees with sniper rifles. I actually delivered. I had a weird assignment once where I delivered a Russian TV to a summit meeting that took place there, and saw the kind of security that they had, and how so many people are in one small place that if something happened there, it could be devastating.
Yeah, the touch I like the most is when you mention how a bad guy gets mixed up with the good guys by simply saying, I don't know why I'm here. My boss from Dam Neck sent me. And I know a little bit about that, and therefore it would work. It would work with some things.
I think it would. Yes. I mean, I don't have a military background, but I've certainly talked to a lot of the operators. I have a kind of unique way of talking to them, and a lot of them will tell me things that they've been involved in, and what they. Some are very bitter, some are very resentful, and I kind of use that in this book as well.
I have got the opposite of a military background. I'm like the anti-military, but I try and figure it out, and I think you do a very good job of faking it. But I didn't want to talk about this on air. There's an Abbey Gate angle here, and
yes,
obviously a purposeful choice by you. When did you make that choice, and why?
I would, like so many other people, was absolutely horrified by what happened when in the last days of Abbey Gate, and one of the soldiers, one of the 13 Marines who was killed, was from Wyoming. Wyoming has such a small population that although I didn't know him, I knew his family, and that got me very interested in it. And then I read a lot of this is thanks to you, Hugh. I listen to you every day, and I read the book about Abbey Gate by Dunleavy and another
Jerry
guy.
Dunleavy.
Really got into that, and decided to use that angle basically as an explanation on why some of the disaffected people in the book are so bitter.
I like Jerry. I love his book, but I'll bet you more people will know about the monumental screw up at Abbey Gate because of Battle Mountain than will learn of it from Jerry. That we had eyes on the bomber, and don't shoot command came down. I doubt that many people know that, and I'm glad you put it in the book. And I'm not going to talk about how it plays into the book again. I don't want to do spoilers. Let me go to my number one concern, of course. Judge Hewitt is retired, or at least I think he's retired. I don't know if he's retired. I said that to Dwayne, who said to me, "Don't be so sure." And I don't know if he's just playing with me or not, but if he's retired, what's his pension? I want to know what his pension is.
Well, actually, Dwayne has some plans for Judge Hewitt that I'm still considering.
No, don't accept them.
You can imagine what they are, but he's not dead, so he may reappear. It's going to be based on I don't think that far ahead. I wish I could claim that I did. But if it works out in the books coming up, then there may.
Well, he's retired. I want everyone to know he's retired and enjoying his retirement, at least as far as I know, with 30 pages to go. CJ, you said at the beginning of the interview, every Joe Pickett novel has sold more than the previous one. That's kind of astonishing. I mean, how high is high? How far can it go? Have you reached? There's a limit beyond what exponentiality can't work.
Oh, I agree. And every year I think it'll be this year. But so far, so good. I think one of the strange thing, that there was a Wall Street Journal feature on me a few weeks ago, and the angle was how many new male readers have come into the series. And they attributed that to I do a lot of podcasts that are not book related, like fly fishing, rodeo, hunting. Kind of thing, and got young guys who aren't natural readers find out about the books through these other sources, and start to read them. And in the book signing lines, I started noticing it a couple of years ago where, young guys with beards and fishing hats would be standing in line with everyone else. And I thought, that's interesting. They're reading. They're into this. And it has grown the readership.
I'm a little bit hurt, Chuck. You've never done my fly fishing and hunting podcast.
No, because I think it would only be about 15 seconds
It would be
of
very
frustration.
short podcast. There's a line in Battle Mountain where they're talking about
That's
packing
generous.
out an elk from Battle Mountain, then you got to quarter it and bring it down. And it reminded me of why I never ever want to do that. Now, what I wanted to check, because I didn't even know if I wanted to say this on the air. Do outfitters and guides leave their fobs in the truck? Really?
Yes, or hide them. Yeah, and fishing guides always do, because if something happens, for one thing, if they lose their key in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a river, how are they going to get back in the truck? Or also, if something happens to them and somebody has to retrieve their vehicle and bring it to them, they've got to be able to get it right there. So they usually, it's not a big secret. They usually put it on the top of the back rear tire.
Okay, I'm amazed by that. The same deal happens in Maine. Most boats, or many boats, I shouldn't say most boats, leave the keys in the boat. And a lot of people leave their keys in the car. And it's a Maine thing. It's definitely not an Ohio or a California or a Virginia thing. Now, I want to conclude with two questions. First of all, a corduroy country road is referred to on page 51. I think I know what that means, but what's it mean?
It just means you know what frost heaves are. In a dirt road, usually in the spring when everything thaws, it's just a series of bumps along the road, ridges, so that you've got to drive very slowly, or you drive very quickly and try to skirt along the top without rattling your teeth out.
Do the ridges run in the direction of the road, or they cross the road?
They cross the road.
There's Battle Mountain, by the way.
There's Battle Mountain, yes.
Yeah, and you can't get out. It's near Medicine Bow, where I've spent a lot of time in other places than Battle. Let me finish. You make a reference early on that tells me about you, Peppa Pig and Bluey. So I assume the grandkids are at such an age that when Grandpa gets stuck doing the baby sing, Peppa Pig and Bluey are your go-tos?
Well, they are two of them. The grandkids, I think, have a new favorite one. Something I can't remember the name. Pete the Cat.
Yes.
But, yeah. When we've got the grandkids around, that's on the TV.
Are they up to Paw Patrol yet?
Oh yes.
Yeah, okay.
And they seem to all graduate up from the into Paw Patrol probably around age 3-4.
Yep.
Would you say?
That's about right. But I know where you are in life by little tiny things that are in there. Oh, last question. A salamander named Ashcroft. Is that because of the Ruthless podcast, or is it because of Attorney General Ashcroft? What is that?
I cannot remember. I think it's probably the Ruthless podcast. A lot of the times when I'm trying to find a name, it's like the first thing or last thing I listen to that day. So I think it's more the Ruthless podcast.
I'm going to tell Ashcroft, who is the official White House correspondent for Ruthless now, and
right, I saw that,
from Ohio. So I think very important that you have a salamander name for an Ohio first-timer. CJ, is there a book tour planned, or are you done with those?
Oh, no. The book won't come out until next Tuesday. And, yeah, I've got a book tour that starts out in Arizona and then concludes in mid-March in Iowa.
You want to give it? Do you have handy the cities you're going to, so we can, if someone's come to the end of this extended interview, they're obviously CJ Box junkies, and they will probably want to come get Battle Mountain signed. So I have two questions. Sure. What cities are you going to, and how many books will you sign per person?
Oh, well, first time cities, I'm going to Sun City West, Scottsdale, Dallas, 2 events in Dallas, Houston, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Denver, and then locally here in Wyoming, 3 events, and then Iowa.
Okay.
And, I just found out that, like, the Indianapolis event, they've sold over 600 tickets, and they're trying to get more space. So it's going to be a lot of books.
Wow, 600 tickets for a book signing?
Surprises me too, Hugh. Numbers are like that in Dallas and Denver usually also.
Have you given much thought to why?
You know, no. I mean, I think it's because the books seem to appeal to across the sexes and across ages, and often it'll be fathers and daughters or grandmas and grandsons, and they all like the same books, which is very unusual. And so they'll come together. Whereas most mystery books are women readers, most thriller books are men readers. I tend to get both, which is great.
I'm going to guess as well. Fully developed characters that get old in real time are common in only two series. Danny Silva's books, which are set in Israel most of the time, and yours.
Mm-hmm.
And getting old in real time is, I think, a uniquely compelling feature of a book and a series, so that people kind of know Joe, and they love Mary Beth, and they know about the kids, and they know about Nate, and they know over the course of 25 years, there's a lot of tragedy, there's a lot of ups and downs. It's just a normal life, right?
Thanks. That's what keeps me coming back and keeps me interested, is that especially because of the girls and maybe even eventual grandkids in the books, that it keeps it fresh. It's different every time.
Do we know what a game warden actually makes in Wyoming?
They make about $35,000 to $45,000. Supervisors make more. That's really low, but also consider their housing is taken care of by the state, their vehicles, their transportation. So it's not that bad of a gig.
You also kind of make an appeal to every board of supervisors. There are 3,000 counties in the United States. They all have a library system, or most of them do. And you don't want budget cuts to libraries.
No, I don't. I mean, those in a lot of ways, a lot of libraries these days are more community centers than book depositories, and most of the places I'm going on the book tour are library events rather than bookstore events. So they have a soft spot in my heart.
Well, I'm going to congratulate you on continued success. I know it'll debut at #1 on the New York Times list, but I hope you keep going up the escalator, and that I'm off the air before you stop, because I always enjoy the CJ Box, Battle Mountain. Thank you, CJ. Be well.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I appreciate it.
You betcha.